Every sentence you write asks the reader for something. That is not a flaw. That is the agreement. The reader gives attention, imagination, and trust. You give them a story worth all three. But some sentences ask for more than they give back. They hand the reader a small, unfinished puzzle and walk away before the puzzle is solved. The reader's mind solves it anyway, automatically, often without noticing it happened. No bell rings. No flag goes up. The charge gets collected and nobody complains. That quiet collection is what makes it dangerous. You get no signal that anything went wrong. The page keeps turning. The story keeps moving. But the reader stays just slightly flat, and neither of you knows why. We call this the cognitive reader tax. It is any moment in your prose that asks the reader to guess a scale, fill a gap, or finish a comparison you did not finish yourself. It is not always a mistake. Sometimes a little ambiguity is exactly what a scene needs. The problem is the tax you charge by accident, the one you never meant to collect. Learning to spot it in your own pages is one of the highest leverage skills you can build as a writer. Once you start seeing it, you cannot stop. This masterclass walks through 6 of the most common ways prose quietly taxes a reader without the writer noticing. Then it covers the other side of the coin, the moments when that same ambiguity is exactly the right tool for the job. By the end, you will have one question you can run on any sentence that feels close, but not quite landed. Each of these 6 habits feels harmless in the moment you write it. Each one asks the reader to do a small piece of work you should have done yourself. None of them are wrong every time you use them. They are wrong when they show up by reflex instead of by choice. The word like is not the problem. A sharp, specific comparison is one of the best tools you have. The trouble starts when the comparison is vague, because the reader's mind automatically asks how. How heavy? How fast? How cold? If you've not drawn that scale, the reader has to draw it themselves, and usually they draw something weaker than what you meant. Here is the taxed version. The crowd noise hit her like a wave. What the reader pays is this. A wave of what size? The image stays soft because nothing anchors it. Now, the cleared version. The crowd noise hit her chest before it reached her ears, and for a second she could not find the door. Ask yourself after every comparison, did I finish this, or did I hand it to the reader unfinished? Almost. Nearly. Somewhat. Rather. Quite. Sort of. Each one asks the reader to find a point on a scale you refuse to mark. These words usually show up when you are not fully sure what your character feels, so you soften the sentence instead of deciding. Here is the text version. He was somewhat annoyed by the delay. What the reader pays is this. Somewhat compared to what? Mildly irritated or barely holding it together. The reader has to guess, and the guess is rarely as sharp as the truth would have been. Now, the cleared version. He checked his watch twice in 30 seconds, then put it in his pocket so he would stop. When you find a hedge word, ask what the exact condition is that you were avoiding naming, and name it instead. As if puts an action inside a maybe. She moved as if she were exhausted. He answered as if he had rehearsed it. The reader is asked to imagine a state instead of simply experiencing it directly. Used on purpose, this frame can create a nice bit of distance or doubt. Used out of habit, it just means you have not decided what is actually happening. Here is the text version. She answered the question as if she already knew the result. What the reader pays is this. The sentence hints she might be lying, or might be certain, or might be performing confidence, and never commits to which. Now the cleared version. She answered before he finished the question. When as if shows up, ask yourself if you want that uncertainty on purpose, or if you simply have not picked a version of events yet. Pick one. This one hides in phrases like not quite anger, or something less than relief. The reader first has to build the full version of the named feeling, then subtract some unspecified amount to land on whatever you actually meant. That is 2 steps to a destination you never pointed to directly. Here is the text version. What she felt was not exactly pride. What the reader pays is this. The reader builds pride first, then has to guess how much to take away, with no instructions for how much. Now the cleared version. She read the email twice, then closed her laptop and let herself smile for exactly 3 seconds before going back to work. If you catch yourself writing not quite, or not exactly, ask what the feeling actually is. If you cannot answer that for yourself, the scene is not ready yet. Thought. Felt. noticed, saw, realized. These words put a pane of glass between the reader and the character's direct experience. She noticed the room had gone quiet makes the reader process 3 steps. She noticed the room quiet. Cut the filter and just say the room had gone quiet, and the reader is simply standing there with her. Here is the taxed version. He noticed his hands were shaking. He thought that was strange. Now, the cleared version. His hands were shaking. He had not given them permission. Filters earn their place when the act of noticing is the actual point of the sentence. The problem is the filter that shows up automatically on every page, adding a layer the reader has to look through every single time. This is what happens when a sentence hides who did something. The lights had been turned off. Something had been moved. The reader's mind reaches for the missing person automatically. Who turned them off? Who moved it? If no answer ever comes, a small, unresolved question quietly piles up. Sometimes, withholding the actor is the whole point of the scene, and then it is a great tool. The trouble is, when it happens by default, raising questions you never intended to answer. Here is the taxed version. The car had been left running. The garage door had been propped open. Now the cleared version. Someone had left the car running and propped the garage door open on their way out. When you spot a sentence like this, ask yourself if you actually know who did it. If you do, and the mystery is not the point, name them. Everything above describes the tax you charge without meaning to. But there is a version of this same ambiguity that is completely intentional, and knowing the difference is what separates a writer who flattens every sentence into total clarity from a writer who knows exactly when to hold back. The intentional version is a deliberate choice to leave something unresolved. The loose comparison that stays loose on purpose because the character's own understanding is loose. The missing actor that stays missing because the mystery is the engine of the scene. Think of it this way. An out-of-focus photo and a photographer who chose a soft focus lens on purpose look similar at first glance, but one is an accident and the other is a decision that costs something and earns something back. The test is simple. Does the unresolved piece serve what the reader is supposed to feel, or does it just let you off the hook from deciding? If it serves the reader, keep it exactly as it is. If it is just letting you avoid a decision, go back and decide. The goal here is not zero tax. A page with no ambiguity at all, no scale for the reader to locate themselves on, is not tight prose. It is flat prose. Readers need something to lean into. The goal is choosing where the tax gets spent. Make the reader work where the work pays them back. Give them the comparison that takes a second to land, because that second of effort is part of the experience. And clear the tax everywhere else. The throwaway hedgeword, the reflexive filter verb, the as if that slipped in while you were drafting fast and never got decided. Every place your prose asks something of the reader is a small withdrawal from their attention. Spend it on the moments that pay them back. Clear out the ones that do not. Here is the question to run on any sentence or paragraph that feels close but not quite landed. What am I asking the reader to complete, and have I given them enough to complete it with? If the answer is yes, the tax is working exactly as intended. If the answer is no, you have charged the reader for nothing and walked away from the page before paying your half. Run that question line by line on a scene that feels flat, and the sentence collecting the tax will usually announce itself. The companion power tool for this masterclass is a free download at fictionbrain.com. Everything on the site is free. No paywall, no subscription. Just craft, ready when you need it. The power tool covers all 6 tax constructions in full detail, with extended examples for each one. It includes the diagnostic question for each construction, so you can run it on your own pages. It lays out the difference between an accidental tax and an intentional one, explained side by side. It gives you a complete checklist you can run against any passage that feels flat. And it breaks down the master diagnostic question, sentence by sentence,